Hello and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Melanie.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be a part of your podcast.
That's awesome. Now, can you tell us how the product development team at Hask Hair Care decides which products to launch?
Sure, of course. For Hask, deciding what products to launch is a process that involves looking at ingredient and product, fragrance and texture trends within the hair care, skincare, and the overall beauty market. We find inspiration not only in beauty, but also through trending and unique exotic ingredients within the beverage, food, and even the wellness categories. We look to the prestige and professional hair care markets for inspiration of new and unique products or forms that we can bring to the mass market at a more affordable price. In addition, we review the white space for our brand, like what is missing in our line or collection, and review feedback from our customers, and especially the hairstylists who support our brand. Most importantly, the team at Hask ensures that we love the product before we bring it to market. We do extensive in-house testing, as well as consumer testing to get the right products, collections, and fragrances.
Runs like a well-oiled machine. I like it. So tell us about one of Hask's top hair care collections.
I'd love to. We have the Hask Biotin Boost collection. This is our thickening collection formulated with a tri-level thickening complex of biotin, collagen, and coffee. And the system has 4 products. The Biotin shampoo and conditioner are designed to volumize, strengthen, and fortify hair. They transform your fine, flat strands into voluminous, thicker-looking, stronger, and softer hair.
Sounds like a little of what I need.
Then if you're looking for great styling products to create a thicker, fuller look, the Hask Biotin collection provides 2 terrific options as well. First, there's the Biotin 5-in-1 leave-in spray. This is a multi-benefit leave-in spray designed to add volume and thickness to fine, thin hair. It works small miracles by thickening and adding body, providing thermal protection, controlling frizz and adding shine, preventing breakage, detangling, and moisturizing. And there's also a Hask Biotin dry shampoo.
Oh, I love a good dry shampoo.
Don't we all? Designed with ultra-fine rice starch, which provides long-lasting oil absorption, this lightweight formula acts quickly to soak up oil, sweat, and odor, and provides incredible texture. It leaves your hair fresh and clean with visible lift.
Amazing stuff. Melanie, thanks to you and Hask for being part of the podcast today.
Jamie Lee, it was a pleasure to be here today. Let me leave you and your listeners in the industry with this. The Hask brand welcomes the opportunity to continue building our relationship with the Hollywood styling community. If we can support a project you're working on, send us an email at hask@stonemanagement.net. We'd be happy to help.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, our feature presentation.
Today, I'm speaking with makeup and hair designer, Nana Fischer. Nana is a personal to James Franco. She has been the hair designer for 3 Ridley Scott films and has had some pretty incredible experiences working in the Colombian Amazon. Boy, does Nana have some stories for you.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Nana.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Hey, now I would like you to finish this sentence for me, okay?
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Nana, and when she grew up, she wanted to be
a hair and makeup artist.
You did?
Yes, actually I did.
That's pretty cool.
I did actually. Funny you say that actually, because my mother was in theater. My father was in acting, and my mother was a single mother, but I grew up backstage on theaters. So I was surrounded theater and actors and sets and stuff since I was a child. So my mother would always find me on the makeup thing and painting my face. Not obviously how we do it now, more in like a scary way, but there was always bits on my face.
Oh, I love it. So you're always getting into the makeup. That's
yes.
Awesome.
Yes, colors and material, like clays and things like that. Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. So how old were you when you were doing that?
I think I must have been between the age of between 4 and 5. I started
Oh my
doing things
goodness.
like that. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Such a cool thing to see at such a young age.
Yes, and it's so funny because my mother would it's theater, it's nighttime, or it's more in the evening. So I'm sure you've been in theaters too when before the play starts and it's dark and it's the whispering. So that's one of my most comfortable moments, when the sound of whispering and it's dark and something is about to start. It's like, because I grew up like that, so every day my mom would take me to the theater, so that's what I would hear.
That's so cool. So it's just that quiet
Yes,
whisper, and then
yes,
something exciting is about to start and
yes,
about to happen.
yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. So when did you actually figure out, though, that you were like, I can do this as a job?
I don't want to dwell on for too long, but so my mother was in theater. Then I went to Germany. I grew up with my grandparents in boarding school. And my grandparents wanted me to do a proper job, most parents want. They think something like hair or makeup is not that great. So I had to go to school. But then my mother was still in Japan and involved in theater. And I think I was about 17 where I thought I want to do hair and makeup, but I just don't know how to. But because of my grandparents, I went to school, and then the promise was okay, if I do this degree, then I can go back to Japan and I could start doing hair and makeup. So I guess I was 17 where I really thought, that's something I really would like to do.
So what was the degree that you had to do to keep your grandparents happy?
So I went to med school to become a lab technician.
Wow.
Yes.
That's cool. I mean, with makeup, you end up kind of, you're a bit of a lab technician. So
yes, and it's my favorite thing was taking blood and being in the lab and mixing things. And if there was something gory, I was always the first one there to watch. If somebody came in with some injuries or whatever, it's I need to go and have a look at it. I still have my obsession when somebody falls, and and it's oh, let me take a picture, please, just for references.
You're like, are you okay? Yep, cool. Let me take your photo.
Yes,
Thanks.
yes, exactly. Anyone, when they tell me about, oh, can you take a picture and send it to me?
That's great. So your reference catalogue must be quite good.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I love it. So after that, you decided, yep, I still want to do hair and makeup. So did you go back to Japan at that point?
So yes, so I thought I wanted to do makeup and the bloods and gores and creatures and things like that. And then when I went to Japan, a friend of my family, she was a makeup artist in Japan, and she said, okay, so to become a makeup artist in Japan, it goes hand in hand. It's a little bit like Europe, you have to do hair and makeup. You can't just do makeup. And so to do that, you have to go to makeup school. So I went to Shiseido Makeup School, where they teach you both. It's like a full-time course, and then you have to do a 3-year apprentice in a hair salon before you actually can do your license. And I thought I don't really want to do hair, but I thought, okay, that's my only choice. Well, I guess that's the route I have to take. And so I did that. And then while I was doing that, I actually quite enjoyed doing hair, like finger waves. And I got involved with the company I used to work for. We used to do runaway shows, fashion shows, like Tokyo Fashion Week and things. So I was involved with the artistic team and stuff like that. And I really enjoyed that because you have to do both for some reason. And I think it makes sense. It takes longer a little bit to learn hair than makeup. Of course, it's very different when you want to do creatures. But so I sidetracked a little bit into hair. And then my plan was then to come to America to do a Joe Blasco course because I wanted to do creature. But I had an offer to go to London to work for these amazing companies and to do education and platform work. And I thought, London it's such a creative city too. Unfortunately, I like 80s music, like David Bowie, like all that kind of glam rock. So I thought, I try this and then I go to America. But then I got sidetracked and I stayed in London for quite a long time before. And I went more into the hair and makeup route and not so much into the creature world. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So in London, were you working for a salon and then?
Yes. So I was hired by the company in London called Cobella, which is Beverly and Anestis Cobella, who have a couple of salons. Beverly, who's a great mentor and a really, really good friend of mine, still did British Hairdresser of the Years. So we were really on the fashion. So I was running the salons. They had a couple of salons. I was running some salons, and we were doing platform work and traveling the globe with in conjunction with Wella and doing hair shows, like which are like kind of very avant-garde, so like quite creative with the hair and makeup.
Yeah, and high fashion. It's really what's
Yes.
like leading the way, isn't it?
Yes, and it was very editorial, so it was very exciting, you know?
Yeah. So you were getting to do the makeup as well, so that's cool.
Yeah, so it was mainly like we were doing the hair shows when we were doing the platform work. Obviously, I would do the hair shows, but then when we were doing editorial, then I would dip into makeup too and do both because, like, when we were doing the shows, you have to design the makeup. So, yeah, it was pretty much kind of like an all-rounder then, yes.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point then do you think about doing more film and TV kind of stuff?
So it started off like for my passion for theater again. So I was doing all the editorial, the traveling, the salon, and I wanted to go more a little bit like into theater, like, you know, like in London, theater is great. I had a few friends who were working in theater, and I just wanted to expand my, you know, to learn more as well and more about wigs. So a friend of mine was working in the theater, and I said, look, you know, I know it's in the evening. Can I come along a couple of times during the week and help you out? Just to go kind of back, like my love for theater and backstage, you know? And she said, yeah, I mean, I said, look, you don't have to pay me. I just want to come along and help you and learn to block weeks and things like that. So I went along and helped a couple of times during the week. Then she went on a holiday. And then I decided to go part-time with the salon and part-time go into like the editorial, like magazines and theater and stuff. So I was working in the theater and I was doing this play called As You Like It with Sienna Miller, Helen McCrory and Dominic West. And I was doing the hair, and Helen McCrory was just about to start a movie called The Queen with hair and makeup designer called Daniel Phillips in London. And Helen said, like, I would like you to come along if you want to. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is amazing. I would love to. So she introduced me to Daniel Phillips, who was already crewed up for his film for The Queen, but said, you know, for the next film, I definitely bear you in mind.
Okay.
And meantime, there was a big film coming to London, to Pinewood, called Troy with Brad Pitt. And they needed some people in the background. So I put myself forward for that. And I did a couple of days on the set there with Aldo Signoriti, who was also an amazing Italian hair designer. And a couple of months later, Daniel Phillips called me and said, look, I'm doing this film called Venus with Peter O'Toole, and would you like to come along? And I said, oh my God, I would love to. So that was the beginning. So I did that. That was my first film. And then one thing happened to the other. And then I had a phone call to say Ree Neal was in town in London to do the film called Sweeney Todd, and she needs help with hair for Johnny Depp. So do you want to come along and help out and see if it works? And I went along and worked on that. And then from then on, it was just one thing after the other. It just seemed to be like that I was in the film industry for some reason.
Yeah. You're on the path.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that the like first couple of times actually going to a film set was on something so massive as Troy.
I know. I couldn't believe it. I think I drove to Pinewood, and you know, it's like for us, it's like our normal workplace. But I was so impressed. I was like, my God, this is Pinewood. This is so exciting, and you know, the film sets, and you know, it was quite profound then for me. Yes.
So when you were helping on background on that one, do you remember, like, did you make it onto set when you helped out those days, or did you just
Yes, you know what, it was very funny because like it was like a big crowd, and we had to get all those special priests ready, and I was only booked for one day, and that was enough for me. I was like, that's cool, it's fine, you know. And I went there, and because of my background of fashion, I have to say, going back to my education, because my background is hairdressing and fashion, and in fashion, you have to turn around so quick. The models come, you know, they come from another show, the hair is very like sprayed to death or glued to death, and you got to turn them around very quickly for the show. So I think I was quite used to work very fast and quick. So I think the first day I was just in the tent or in the room where we got ready, but I was very fast. And I remember Aldo coming around, and he only speaks Italian, so you don't understand a word he says. But I guess like they must have noticed that I was fast and good. So then they asked me to keep coming back. And to be perfectly honest, like there was other week works which I've never done. So I was just literally, I had to basically do it there on the spot,
Just work it out.
Just work it out, kind of. It's like, oh, when you get a bit of a rush and you think, oh my God, can I do it? Yes, 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 you can. And then after the second day, then we were allowed to go onto set. Yes, and there was like this amazing scene, like in Pinewood, they built this great set with the lake, and it's like all like this make-believe. It wasn't real water, it was gel. I mean, we all know that now, but then you think, oh my God, this is not real water. This is made out of plastic,
Yeah, that's amazing. I just, it's so cool that your first gig was on something so big. Your eyes must have been like saucers, like just like, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff. It's amazing.
Stimulation, yes, of course. Yes, absolutely.
So that's cool. So was there somebody that was kind of like, I guess, kind of holding your hand through that, kind of just like guiding you, or?
Well, it was like we were all in the crowd room, as you know, when you're in a big crowd room.
Yeah.
And next to me was this lovely lady. Her name was Teresa Hinton. She was right next to me, and she was from Australia. She's worked with him a few times, and there was like little things, I turned up with everything except the kitchen sink, but there was a few things I didn't have. And she kindly gave it to me. And she was kind of like, this is what we do. And funny enough, I just came back last year. I was in Thailand and in Japan. I was doing a film for Netflix. And Teresa lived in Australia, and I actually called her and said, would you come do? I asked her a couple of times. I did a film with Exodus with Ridley Scott. So I asked her if she would come from Australia. So she's a great wig maker, so I'm still in touch with her, and we worked many times together since then.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. Actually, you met her as well, and she came out with us on The Light Between the Ocean. Do you remember?
I was going to say, actually,
yes.
I do remember.
Yes, yes.
I think, was it Tasmania she came
Tasmania, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, that's right.
I love those relationships.
I know, me too. It's great, isn't it? History.
So you're going your Sweeney Todd, your Mamma Mia, the Wolfman, King's Speech, Hannah, X-Men. Like, oh my goodness, the list is pretty amazing, lady. So at what point, like your first head of department job, what was that?
So I did Sweeney Todd, and then I did Mamma Mia, and the makeup designer was Tina Earnshaw, who's a legend as well. And she then I think through the same producer, who's an amazing producer who I've worked with many times too as well, called Mark Hoffam, had this film in Northern Ireland, Belfast, called Your Highness, and she was asked to department head it. Tina does makeup, she doesn't do hair, and she asked me if I would want to come along to do the hair. And that was, before that I did a little key hair department. I was helping somebody where I was doing the key, so I was doing mainly the hair. But my proper first hair designing job was on a film called Your Highness with Tina in Belfast. And it was a medieval film. It was like a stoner film, but a fantasy.
It's like a comedy, right? I've seen it. Yeah,
it's a comedy. I quite like it. A lot of people's bad, but I guess it was like I had great memories. So it was fantasy and it was medieval. So it was like free fall, So it was so much fun because, like, for hair, to design the hair, we could do anything, So, and the director was amazing. So I have to say I was very, very lucky with that. It was like just being given a plate with lots of toys and say, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah. And was that the first time you met James Franco as well?
Yes, that's where I met James the first time. That's right, yes.
That's very cool. And then you guys have worked together a whole bunch since then, right?
Yes, it's been now, actually it's come up to 10 years. That is exactly 10 years ago that we did Your Highness together. It didn't start off well, the first few meetings, I have to say. But since then it's been 10 years and I've done pretty much all his movies, yes.
I love how you're like, it didn't start off well, but 10 years later, we've worked it out.
Oh, we became really, I think it was like a few things was against us. He flew in, he had only a couple of hours in London because he was in transit. And I remember the director saying that he wanted James to look like, I'm so bad with name. What's the guy from Lord of the Ring, the good looking one with the longer hair?
Aragorn?
Aragon, sorry, yes.
Mm.
So that was a kind of a little bit of idea how the director wanted James to look like. And James being handsome, but he had short hair. So I'm like, okay, are we going to go down the route of the wig or hair extensions? I wanted to just cover every aspect of it because I knew I had only an hour.
Yeah.
So thinking of Northern Ireland, it rains a lot. So there's a lot of humidity. So I was thinking, I'm probably going to go down more the extensions route, but I just wanted to have a head wrap and a week maybe on standby just in case, because you never know. I always believe, I've learned that from Ridley Scott, that you have to have as many options as possible. So I always try to cover everything. Even if you know you end up with that, I like to have a standby plan A, B, C ready.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a week ready. We wanted to take a week wrap and we wanted to measure a few things and stuff. So we only had an hour, and there was some kind of strike in London or something. I was the only one ready at the hotel, and I was supposed to meet Tina and the lady who took the week wrap and the colors and stuff like that. They were all late, and I was sitting in the hotel thinking, oh my God, should I go there about myself? Do I call them? Do I not call them? So anyway, I called him, and I didn't know it was him at the time, but I said, I'm really sorry. Some of my colleagues are a bit running behind, but do you mind, should I come up or should I wait? And he said, just come up when you're here. And then obviously he had very little time. And so it didn't start off well. Everyone was a bit flustered and things like that. And then the second time he flew into London, and then we were supposed to fly out to Belfast together. And we went down, let's get the extensions done in London, and we fly up. My car got torn. Couldn't find my car, so I couldn't get to the salon in time. So I was late twice in his eyes, and so that didn't go down too well. But then when we're in Ireland, we put the extensions in, and with extensions, it always takes a couple of days until the hair settles. You know that, right? But he literally just flew in the day before we started shooting. So I had to keep going in and adjusting the extension and things like that. And then we had a little bit of a dialogue, and it just broke the ice. And then since then, we just, obviously 10 years later, we are still work together and are friends. So that says it all. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I wanted to touch on a little bit of that last show that you did with him, The Deuce, because he's playing two characters, right? Like he's playing twins.
Yes.
And then is each season like kind of a different time period? Like it moves ahead in time, doesn't it?
So yes, The Dudes, it's like an HBO show. We shot it over the last 4 years, and it's the creators of the people who did The Wire. And it's actually based on a true story about those two brothers, the twins. And it's actually the making of Times Square. And it starts off in 1977, then it goes into 1979, and then the last season was 84. So we were jumping from the 70s to the 80s, where there is obviously quite a lot of movement, fashion, hair, politics, a lot of things. So it was very interesting because we had to jump in those times, yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you kind of work out how you would make those two brothers look different, being that it was the same, that it was James playing both people?
So I think when they did the pilot, I didn't do the pilot for the HBO, so it was a little bit established just for the pilot. And then the first season I came on board, so I couldn't change too much. And also it's a TV show, so it's super fast, like it had to be something where we could make him look from one to the other in a really quick, in a very short time period. And because you're shooting all on location in Manhattan, which was amazing, and sometimes we would have like 3 moves during the day. We would be, in a village, then we'd be uptown, then we'd be in Steiner Studios or something. So it had to be something where we could change him very quickly. And also because they had some ideas how they wanted him to look. So for Vincent, he had like more like floppy hair. They both had the mustache. And then, if it's very tricky, like, when the pilot is being established, it's very hard to change too much. So I started changing things a little bit more for season 2 or season 3. It was a little bit more of a layaway. But Frankie, the character Frankie was like this kind of like rock and roll Elvis Presley type, greasy hair, cheeky guy. So he had more like I would warm him up a bit more. So he had more of like a tan skin, he had a bit more darker features. So I would color his hair a little bit darker and his mustache darker. Where Vincent is more the softer guy. So I try to keep his skin tone lighter, softer around the eyes. And the hair was much more like a 70s, like, layered haircut.
That's very cool. It worked really well. I mean, he did such an amazing job too.
Oh, he's amazing. Yes. I mean, like, he's such a great actor. And it's like the difference it's obviously all in the acting. He plays the brothers, the twins, so different. So it's like when we change him to Frankie, he is like this cheeky chappy. He comes onto set and it's like the energy is different. When he's Vincent, he's different. Yeah. And, for season 2, for Vincent, he had more like a Mick Jagger shaggy hairstyle where Frankie stayed kind of the same throughout the whole season. So he was he'd be the kind of type, he wouldn't change his looks because that's him. He puts the grease in his hair. He's got a little poppadom, he's kind of wears the tighter clothes, and Vincent is more, because then in season 2 he becomes the owner of this really known nightclub, almost like Studio 54. So he's got money, so he wears suits. So obviously working very close with the costume designer as well to figure out what kind of looks and hairstyle we wanted. And of course James and we would think we would watch movies from the 77 to 79, and then towards the end it was 84, so we would watch lots of movies from 1984 and come up with like a mood board, and we would have that all plastered in the trailer, so we kind of get the feel of the era. I would have magazines from 1984 or whatever season we were in and listen to that kind of music or something. So we were kind of in that kind of like era. We tried to be in that era,
That's very cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So what was his look in 84? Did it change again? Did Vincent's change again?
So for season 3, we wanted James we really loved this film called Star 80. I don't know if you know it. It's like with Eric Robertson.
Okay.
So we really liked the look of Eric Robertson in a way. It was a fusion between Eric Robertson, Robert Palmer, and Richard Gere from American Gigolo. So we wanted to have a bit more of a layered, softer haircut,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that you're just grabbing from all these different references. That's
Cool.
It's
like I always try to do that, like kind of whatever period, trying to really get into it. It starts off with the research that I try to pull magazines from that time era or listen to that kind of music, or definitely watching movies which were made at that time, or like news clips, or Googling it on YouTube and things like that. That's part of our fun too, isn't it? I mean,
oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. You go down a rabbit hole and it's just like you're obsessed with it for however long that you're working on it. And I think sometimes too, I found that I end up researching things that I never thought I would know about.
Yes.
Or people that I never thought I would, care to look into. But it's, so fascinating.
It's really fascinating. And you learn as well. It's an educational thing, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. We're always learning, aren't we?
You're always learning. But so we had to change quite a lot. And it was sometimes quite intense because sometimes, with the times, what it's like when you have week changes. I mean, he had weeks on. So Vincent always had a week on. So the first season we had pieces in for Vincent, and the second season he had a week on. The third season he had a week on. So to change it so fast from one look to the other, instead of like struggling with blow drying and washing and all of that, we just went down the route of like wigging one of the characters, and then the other one would be his own hair. So, but sometimes it was a bit hairy, like, because sometimes they would say, okay, we have a location change, but then when we're on the next location, he needs to be Vincent, So it was always a bit like, oh my God, okay, we got to change him. So sometimes they would even set up like a little station on the street where I would have to put the wig on or something, in the middle of Manhattan or something. So it's like they would just put me a little mirror and then plug in the groups would get me some cable, and then I'd be like in the middle of Manhattan putting a wig on James, and it's like something like I will probably never forget.
Yeah, that's so cool that he's such a team player.
Because he's a director as well, and he's very aware of times, and to be ready and not making anyone wait. So you got to be on board. That you got to be on your board. So yeah, you have to be.
Yeah. That's very cool. So now you've also worked with Ridley Scott.
Oh yeah,
a few times. Like 3 films have you done with him?
So I did Prometheus, The Counselor, Exodus. Yes, 3 films.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's my hero.
Yeah. So how did the
He's my hero.
first job with him come along? How did you first get introduced to Ridley Scott?
Okay, so the word was out that he was doing Prometheus, the follow-up to Alien, and of course you worked on Blade Runner, you know what kind of, it's just like, oh my God, it's Ridley Scott, doing the follow-up to Alien, and it's like, I always loved his work because like he's just so visually and so amazing, and I mean so the word was out that Ridley is doing Prometheus and that they're looking for makeup and hair and stuff. And I thought, like, there's no chance, I'm just started off and I don't know. And anyhow, so I would just finish the film with Michael Fassbender on X-Men, and he said he's going to be in the new, I was like, oh my God, and he was like, I'm going to try to see if I can take you with me. And I'm like, oh my God. So anyway, so he obviously must have put the word out. And the producer on it was also the producer I did Your Highness with and Mamma Mia. So he was like, okay, well, why don't we bring her in, see if, bring Nana and Tina in to see if Ridley would, gel with them or what they think or whatever. So Mark Hoffman, the producer, called and said, do you want to come in for a little test? And, just bring your staff, bring your colors, bring your wigs and everything and come along. So I was like, oh my God. So I bought everything except the kitchen sink. Like I bought wigs, I bought colors, I bought crazy colors, everything. So anyway, we're all set up there. Tina is all set up. I'm set up. And he comes in and he has some kind of cutouts of magazines, you rip out of the Vogue, pages and stuff. So he comes in and he shows me this really editorial haircut, and he goes, "Can you do this?" And I went, "Yeah, if you give me half an hour, I can do it on this wig here, but I need about half an hour, 45 minutes." And he goes, "Okay, just show me the pictures. Like, can you do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I try. 45 minutes. Okay, 45 minutes." And he comes back, he looks at the wig, and he goes, "Okay." Then he pulls up another image and he said, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Okay, I have to color it, but yeah, if you give me an hour, yeah, okay." So off he goes. I start coloring and stuff. He comes back and he goes like, "Okay, good." Then he goes, "Okay, bring Naomi in," who's Naomi Rapace, who's the leading lady.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Can you show me something like this?" And then Naomi obviously had her ideas as well. And Ridley then briefed me. It's like, I think she should be blonde. So I had loads of wigs from Peter Owen, who's also my hero, with me, and I tried different kind of wigs on. Obviously, they were not made for her, but we're doing a fitting, and he keep coming in and asking me another look. I'll do it. Then he would come in, he would say, "Okay, let's do a camera test." And I'm like, whoa, what does that mean? And he wanted her to be kind of blonde, so I had blonde wigs, but in all the boxes I had this kind of auburn box. And Naomi is amazing as an actress too. She's very open and she has her own ideas. And he was like, "Oh, let's try this, let's try that." So we tried different kind of wigs on, brown, short, long. And Naomi has got this really beautiful, flawless skin and beautiful brown eyes. And I had this Albany ready wig in my bag, and I said, "Let me just put this on." And once we put it on, it just looked so beautiful. And so then the next day we did the camera test, and Ridley wanted to see brown and blonde, and we put the wigs on. He goes like, "Yeah, no, I'm happy with this. I like the blonde." Yeah. And I said to Ridley, "It's like, do you want to have a quick look at this red one? This looks pretty nice too." And he goes like, "I think I'm good with blonde." I said, "But, maybe just to see." And he goes like, "Go on then." So we put it on, and then he's like, "Okay, no, this looks good." And then, me and Tina was like, "So, how did it go? Was it a test or did it go well?" And then Mark said, "I think you guys did really well." And that's how we got the job, So after the camera test, we were like, "Oh my God." And then, yeah, that's how it started. But he's my hero.
It's very, very cool.
He's amazing.
So I love that he made you jump through a few hoops to get there, though, didn't he?
Yes. Yes, but there's something about Ridley. He obviously has an incredible eye. I don't think I've met anyone who's got such an amazing eye for shapes, colors, or art or whatever. I mean, he's just unbelievable. So he would come in and then he would take, he always has a camera with him. So he would, when I did the test with Nomi before the camera test, he'd be like sitting there and, Tina would have put this beautiful, flawless makeup on. He'd be like, taking pictures with his camera, and then he'd be like, yeah, switch the light off, put that light on, just in the makeup room. And then he would say, if you put this light on, he's like so incredible with sharing his knowledge too. He's like, this looks better in this light and stuff. So yeah, but he'd be quite strict, but he's like so knowledgeable that you just like, zap up every word he says. It's like a sponge. You're like, yeah, what else? He's like
So it sounds like he's quite involved, which is awesome.
Oh my God, he is so involved, yes. And he's an amazing sketcher and draws as well. And for one of the characters in Prometheus, it's like Sean Harris. He's got this very almost that mowing tattoo over his face and, a bit more of a Mohican. He would sketch it. So it's really, it gives you amazing guidance. Also, we did Exodus. So we did like all the Egyptian, and he's got so much knowledge, about history. I mean, you can ask him anything, he knows it. And then because I'm a visual person as well, he'd be like, if you want to explain something, he would kind of sketch it for you. He'd be like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. And then it's like, yeah, he's very involved in everything. Yes.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Did he ever get his hands into people's hair? Did he go that far?
No, actually, no. He would call you over and he would say, no, he doesn't actually. No, he didn't. No. There's one funny story, actually. I'll tell you very quickly. So Michael Fassbender had to be blonde for Prometheus, and we dyed his hair. And he really, really didn't like dyeing his hair very often. So we tried to keep it as long as possible, not to dye it. And this one day we had to do the scene where he sits I don't know if you've seen Prometheus, where he sits in front of the screen and he watches Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia, because this character David was very influenced by Lawrence of Arabia, and Lawrence of Arabia, Peter O'Toole was blonde, very Aryan looking, blue eyes blonde. And so this scene is where he sits in front of the screen, and I thought, like, his roots need to be really tip top for that. And on the schedule, it looked like that Charlize was shooting in the morning and we'd be on with Michael in the afternoon. So I scheduled Michael in to come in the morning so we can color his hair. Michael comes in the morning and then I hear from above, Ridley wants to shoot with Michael first. And I'm like, oh no, no, we got to dye his hair first. And it was like this whole look, and we're just like, yeah, no, but today we really need to do the roots and this and that. And the AD is like, well, come to Ridley, talk to him. Because he wants to shoot it first, So I'm going on to set. I'm like, Ridley, his roots are really bad. I mean, you can't be sitting there having his roots done and this and the other, it needs to be so blonde. And then Ridley goes like, so what about if he dyes his hair in the film? Can you do that? And I'm like, I mean, we can pretend he's having his hair dye. We can put some foam in the hair and he sits and watches. And that's how he solved the problem, He's like, on the moment, he just decided then, like, okay, so he had colorful roots, so we pretend he actually dyes the hair.
Yeah, I remember saying that.
Yes. And I was like, oh my God, so we did that and we kind of solved that problem that way. So I thought that was a story I will remember too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. Something that was never going to be in the film.
No, it was like never supposed to be in the film. I think I joked and I said, do I get a little credit for this? And he's like, shut up, man, shut up, just do your job.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. So, I mean, Exodus is a pretty huge film. That must have been, where did you shoot that?
So Exodus is probably the biggest thing I've done so far film-wise. It was massive. So I had like 4 months prep, which is quite a lot because I had,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and I think at one point I had over 150 hairdressers because we shot in London in Pinewood, and then we went to Spain, and then we went to the Canary Islands, and we had huge battle scenes. We had huge Egyptian scenes and things like that. So, at one point I would have 200 people in crowd. 75 people in the stand on horses, and then our main truck. So I would get up at 3 or 4 in the morning. Me and Tina would get up at 3 and 4 in the morning, go into the crowd, make sure that everyone's got what they needed, and then we would go. Then so the crowd was set up like about half an hour somewhere else, their base. Then we
Yeah.
would have to take a car, and then I would go to the stunt. There was another 75 stunt team where we had a separate tent for that, and then our base. So it was quite incredible. But Ridley, again, in the beginning, he's like, you must read this. He would give you loads of films to watch, books to read, like photograph to research. He sent me and Tina to the British Museum. There was a specialist about the Egyptian culture. He would give us, like talks about, because we had to really like research the looks, like there's like such a class system also with hair and makeup, like the really, really low class people would have, they all shave their hair because of hygiene reasons. So all the shapes of the head, like the shapes, the material, the wigs were made. Some, the low class people, they had their wigs were made from straw and things like that. Then going up to the high class, it's very, very varies differently. So we would go to the British Museum and talk to this specialist, and then I didn't have just hairdressers actually. So 3 months before I started prep, and I had about like, I think 30 people with me on board for prep because we were building the wigs. So,
Wow.
and it wasn't just normal wig making. I had a couple of people who were like hat makers, so we would create like little bases with hat things, and then I would glue material on it, or we would take wool, I would dip it in clay and then gloss it and then paint it in gold and then glue it onto the shapes. We would have all those people coming in. We would take molds of the head shape so we can create this hard base so we can glue things on it. So it was incredible, really, before we even started shooting.
Yeah. And I love too that he's just like, I've researched all of this stuff. I need you to do the same
yes,
thing. So
absolutely.
when I talk to you about things, you know what I'm saying. You can get this vision into your head. That's amazing.
Yes, and he would tell you, but he does it so amazingly. He would tell you a story about something, and then he would tell you, if you look at this book and you watch this movie, then just, this bit there. And so it's like, he's such an incredible leader in any sense that he gets you so excited that you just you would go to the moon and back, just because it's also joy. It's fun too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So did he have an eye for like background and stuff like that? So he was paying attention to everything? Because I know some directors are very focused on their cast and backgrounds in the back of their mind. But is he quite aware of everything?
He's got, like I said before, he's got an incredible eye. Obviously, his eye is like sharp. Very, for the main cast, like, everything gets tested before, which was great for me and Tina. We would do loads and loads of camera tests. Not just one. We would like do many, and then again, like that's the thing where I learned from Ridley. It's like have many options. So even for one character, we would do 5 different looks and then put it on camera. And then we would all watch it all together, and, he would give comments, what works, what doesn't work, and things like that. So very, very involved that, but in the background as well. So we had different kind of like, we had the Egyptian, then we had the Jewish people, then we had like, all those different like levels of servants and the army people. And so every look had to be approved by Ridley. And that's why we had so much time too. So once you start shooting, pretty much you know what you're doing, which is, so easy as well then, Yeah. And of course there's other people who join constantly, but they would always, the production in, Mark and Ridley, they would always give you enough time to prep it properly and test it. So there'd be no surprises basically on the day, which is very reassuring for us, isn't it?
Oh, it's so amazing. I just wish it happened more. I feel like it's a dying thing as proper preparation. Like it's so important. That's so cool. Now I want to hear a little bit about the lost city of Z, because I know we've had little conversations about this, and I'm always like, what? This is crazy. So how did you get onto that project?
Okay, so that was quite a project, I have to say. So I was in London, and my lovely agent, yours too, Daniela, calls me and says, so I got this film, which is a really amazing director, and it's shot in London, Belfast, and in Colombia. And it's a period film. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds great. And she's like, yeah, we sent you the script over, this and the other. So I start reading the script, and it's like deep in the Amazonian jungle, pretty much 80% of the film. And but it was such a feast when I was reading it. It's like the original Indiana Jones. He goes into the jungle, but it's period. It's set in the 1920s, so you have period in England. Then you have like there was like 6 or 8 different kind of indigenous tribes in the jungle. There's aging. There was like 16th century opera scene in the jungle. So I'm like, oh, wow, body paints, indigenous makeup, aging, period. I'm like, wow, this is such a feast. So I'm like, oh my God, yes, I would love to do it. Then my agent goes like, yes. So most of the time you'll be in Colombia. And then I was like, I have a fear of mosquitoes and I'm highly allergic to it. So I'm like, Daniela, how long are we going to be in the jungle? And she goes like, I think most of the time you'll be in the jungle. So I was like, okay, now I don't know if I can. And then I'm also not very good in heat and humidity. And I'm like, okay. So how long is that going to be? Like, how hot is it? So, that just goes through your head. You obviously don't say that, but I went to a hypnotist to get over I thought first, like, I don't know if I can do this physically, like mosquitoes, being in a jungle and all of this, So I went to a hypnotist to help me with my anxieties from mosquitoes. But I thought, okay, I got to do it. This is something like a life challenge, So I meet up with James Gray, who's also like, I'm just so lucky, I guess, with the director, an amazing director too, very knowledgeable and very, very creative, also got an incredible eye, quite quirky, and had a meeting, got the job. So then we started off in Belfast. We did all the English bits, with the period, with the boards, with the military, where we had Second World War. So we had trenches as well. We shot that all. And then so we started off with all that part, which was controlled in the studios and everything. And then we knew we would go to the jungle. So the looks for the jungle, for the indigenous people, some of the tribes, the James and Anthony Katakis, they wanted to have, like, we were looking at different tribes. Like there's this tribe called the Red Tribe where they're all painted in red and have like those pudding ball hairdos. Then there's another tribe where the women shave off the hair halfway through. They all have long hair. And the producer said, like, we're going to go to Colombia, right into the Amazonian jungle, and we're going to find real indigenous people. So, it should be easy and straightforward and stuff. So I'm like, that's great. And, they had some real indigenous scout people going into all those indigenous villages to scout people. And so I thought, like, okay, I knew again, there was many challenges actually for the jungle. So first of all, Charlie Ahanen had to age. So there was a route of like, do we use prosthetic or do we do old stipple? We tested many things. We thought about in the heat, in the humidity. Then I was told that we would have to truck and, hike through the jungle. I'm thinking, oh my God, you put the pieces on. By the time you're on set, you hike through it, the pieces down on your chin, So maybe go down the stipple like the old fashioned way. So we decided that was that. And then with the indigenous people, because it's so hot there and humid, that I thought, okay, I'm going to get puck paints done in all the color themes, which we decided, the director and we all decided to go to a puck paint made in England and then have it shipped over to Colombia. I had, we wanted to do body tattoos. So I had all like the tattoos made in England. So because also you're in the jungle, you work in nature, you have only limited time to shoot because of the sunlight. So, we had to think, and thank God I was allowed to take all my amazing team with me from London.
Yeah.
So we had to think about like how we can do it very quick and stuff. So we had everything organized. Me, Clarice, Lois and Biddy, we had it all organized, made in time for it to be shipped to go to Colombia. So off we go to Colombia, we get there and we are in a place, it doesn't even have a name. The hotel is basically 30 kilometers north from Santa Marta, which is the closest village. So we got there, and it's this most amazing thing, beautiful place. It's basically very north of Colombia and very close south to the Venezuelan borderline, and it's where the really deep Amazon jungle is really. And there's a little river, there's a little glacier, which is like 50 miles up, which is white. And then there's this river all the way going through, wiggling through down to the ocean. And we were shooting all in the jungle bit. So, for example, our day would be like waking up super early. We would then go on a 4x4. We go to the riverbank where they had our base, where we would get everyone ready. And then they would shovel us into those little wooden boats up the river. Every day we wouldn't know where our location. We just know we get on a boat, we go up the river, and then it's another 45 minutes hiking through the jungle before we get to our location.
Oh my God.
So, it's like, gee. So, we all got really fit. And I mean, the first day I got there, I was so hot. I was like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
But what it's like, you have to have your gear with you, and it's like you have to learn to get everything ready, and whatever you take on set, because you cannot just, I take the boat, the river, the hike, and go back to base and pick up my bottle of spirit gum or something like that. You had to be so organized. So, I mean, thank God for Georgia with, what's it called, the belt?
Linear standby. Yeah.
Yes, because we all had those. That's our only thing we could carry, and then maybe one on the shoulder, because so hot, you got to really hike, and it's like, I mean, there's monkeys, crocodiles, snakes, so you had to be really diligent with what you wear, what you carry. Sometimes you'd be like literally climbing along. I remember like one day we were like climbing, Robert Pattinson was in front of me, and he tried to help me. He was like, no, if you put your foot on that stone and then you pull yourself, then you can help me hoiking myself over to the other side. It was just like sometimes like Mission Impossible, we would laugh. It was like quite incredible. So anyway, going back to the makeup thing. So we're there, and then we get into the indigenous things, and we meet all those indigenous people. And for some reason, they're all huge football fans. So when we met them, instead of us all imagine them having really long, dark hair, and some tribes had, but most of them had really short, very super football, like, shaved on the side, Ronaldo haircuts. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So then we had to have I had loads of wigs with me, but we had to wig pretty much everyone. And then when it came to the body paint, so we shipped our stuff way ahead because of all the customs and everything. So it had to be really organized. Anyway, we're setting everything up, and it's like we're waiting for the paint, and all of a sudden, it's not just my department. It was the same with costume, with camera and everything. They held everything in custom. Certain things got held. Certain things got released very slowly. The costume got released, camera got released. But my pack paint and certain of my special paints, like the illustrator, they all got held in custom. And the reason why they wouldn't release it is because it contains alcohol and acid. Now, they wouldn't release it because of all the cocaine, like Pablo Escobar. The river where we would go up the river is where Pablo had all his cocaine fields. I mean, we would pass them too. So because of the drug problem in Colombia, they wouldn't release our makeup. And we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And it was like, and their production tried everything, to explain what we're doing and things. It's like, no, we wouldn't release it in time. So we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? So we were very lucky to pick up a couple of very lovely Colombian hair and makeup people. And our base was by this hotel by the beach, and we were going for a walk. And then I don't know who it was actually, but somebody picked up a charcoal and said, what about if we, charcoal this and mix it with Vaseline and stuff like that. And then, what about if we use some berries? And what about if we go to back to Santa Marta and buy some kiddies paint? I mean, we had our kit with us, but like certain pigment colors, we didn't. So we had a few MAC things, but not enough. So then, I mean, it was like really going back to basics and thinking out of the box. We just then collected charcoal from the beach. We went into the kitchen of the hotel. We bought the cheese grater. We started cheese grating the charcoal, smashing it and mixing it with Vaseline or water and berries and with water and flour. And that's how we ended up with the paint for the indigenous people. And we showed it to James, the director, and he goes like, that's what they would have done in those days. So it looks very authentic. So then we would have like amazing, because it's indigenous as well, they had like some of the local had those little wooden rolls. We would dip the dye into the rolls and then we would roll it over the bodies and it would create those amazing patterns and stuff like that.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty much an incredible experience as a makeup artist, from a makeup artist point, because you had to throw everything away and just do. But it was like kind of almost like zeitgeist at that time, It's like that's what they would have done, those people at the time,
Yeah.
So we felt it was kind of authentic. So it was like a really good lesson to go back down to roots. And we had so much fun because like every day we would be like flooded, or there'd be crocodiles or somebody got bitten by a snake, and every day you were in such danger. There was like there were buses blowing up in front of us because of the Venezuelan border. Every day there was like, Charlie Hannon had like nearly his ear eaten up by a bug inside. Like, there was every day there was somebody had to be carried away or something. Somebody got bitten by a snake in the leg, and the indigenous chief went straight down and sucked up the poison out his leg, and then otherwise he would have died. And I mean, like, it's things of we all like still, bats flying our faces and stuff. It was so hot. We would just walk with our clothes into the river and pass a crocodile and think, "Oh fuck it, it's so hot, I don't care." And it was like you're so hot that you think, "I don't care." It's like one day we had this huge scene where James Gray flew in this opera singer group, the people who sing opera, for this piece of music where James wanted to have real opera singers. Inside the jungle, they had to build the stage and had those people. We had them in like 16th century dresses with big white wigs with ships in it and everything. And he wanted to shoot that in the jungle. We were like, okay, he wants to shoot in the jungle. We shoot it in the jungle. So they had all those clothes and we start shooting, and our base was in like this little dip. It was like a little dip. We had all our weeks there and stuff like. So we're about to shoot the 16th century opera piece. It's so beautiful, and it starts thundering and raining to the point that everything went out. We had to hide under the stage. And can you imagine the 16th century weeks? We're like, no, don't give it out. It's gonna go cricket. I don't want a piece. It's like the costume woman. It's like we're all like, like in a panic because like there was not much where we could shelter. And then somebody said, the base is in floods. So I'm like going back in a car back to the base, and basically the base was in floods down to my thighs. And I open up the tent where all our wigs are, and the table is floating, the wigs are floating. I just remember just going in with my hands, picking up floating wigs, going, no, my wigs.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was like, and then the end of the day, we'd be like, my God, can you believe we survived again today? But everyone who was on the job, like in my team, we all say it was the most incredible job we ever done, because it's such a life challenge too, but you're creative with it, and every day you're faced with something else, but it's like you feel so alive. It was incredible, really.
I think there's something deeply disturbed about people in the film industry, because we just love stuff like that. It's just that massive challenge of just like, no, I can do it. We can do it. We're going to do it. We're going to stay awake for 24 hours and get this done. It's just so crazy.
So, I mean, the same with you were with me on The Light Between the Ocean. Remember, sometimes we had to lie in the grass to hide. It's like, just lie down, don't show you, don't pop up, just lie there,
I know. You're like, what am I doing?
It's like, yes.
But, I mean, that film really tested your troubleshooting skills, didn't it? To be able to get that makeup done from...
Oh my God, yes. It was like, in general, it was very humbling as a human being as well, because like, you all have to work under such extreme circumstances. I mean, bugs, the heat, the location, and you have to work with people, like with some of the crew, you don't understand the language, but your life is dependent on it. We were on the sandbag, and then all of a sudden flood, and it's just unbelievable what you go through. But then also the indigenous people, they're real indigenous people. They have the most amazing faces, and also they have their culture and their tradition. And one of the things which was in the beginning, which was really hard as well, is like the man wouldn't want to be touched by a woman. So I had to paint them all red, or paint their faces, or paint things on their face and things. And in the beginning, you could see that there was this resistance, and they're like, they don't want to be touched by a woman. So like all my, the girls, we had one guy with us, but we were all girls. But then after 2 weeks, it's like we could not understand each other, but like after a week, there was like they're the most incredible souls that they kind of let you in, and then you become, they accept you, and then they become warm, and then it was just the most amazing thing, really, if I think back now.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I mean, you survived, so well done.
I know. I mean, we did Adasta with James Gray, and I remember him saying, you came with me to the jungle. I'm like, yeah, and now I'm going with you into the stars. I go anywhere with you.
I think Ad Astra was a lot easier.
Oh my God, yes. Very different.
You just had to sit in traffic for however long to get to work every day.
That's the only challenge.
That's so cool. Now, you've done your head of department work and you've been a personal. What do you find are the pros and cons of like being a personal versus being a head of department?
Okay, so starting with the head of department, which I love both. I'm very, very fortunate that I had the opportunity to be able to do both. I also like working in a team or in the background. I like it all. Being a head of department, which is great, is like because you're really involved with the whole look. You can work, I mean, the same with personal, but it's like a feast, isn't it? It's like you've been given all the tools, and you can work with other people. So, you can work with a team, which I love doing. When you have a great team, you can bounce off each other. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. Not everyone is good in one thing. So you can delegate, you can work with people who are better than you and stuff like that. And you can create the whole picture. So that's really fun. Yeah. And it's really, really busy, which I love too. And it's a lot of problem solving, which I love too. I think I'm quite good working under pressure and solving the problem then and then. I think I kind of thrive on that, So I love that. And I love being in the team, and it's nice to see. I know it's not so much in America, but in England, it's like you have your juniors, so you can really, teach the juniors and see how they progress from the junior to makeup. Then you become a grown up, and then become a key and stuff. It's nice to see the process that you can share things and work in a team and, work very closely with the producers and the directors and the vision with the actors and stuff like that. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a pro. The con, I guess, is like, I don't mind being busy, but I guess it's the hours. You sleep very little. You don't have a life except work. I guess that's the con. And then with the personal, which is like kind of a novelty, isn't it? Because you can just solely focus on that person, The beauty about it is that you can really give your 100 and 200 to that one person, to that character, to that storyline, to that character. You're there from every little thing. When you're as a head of department, you got to delegate, so you got to let people off on second unit. You don't see everything, but you trust people. Well, when you're personal, like you're there, to the little tiny flick, you're there to everything. So it's like very detailed, I'd say.
Yeah.
You work really closely with the actor. And sometimes I think when you're personal, you sometimes work deeper on the character you create with the actor, maybe, and also obviously you work with the producers and the directors too, but it's a novelty, I think, sometimes because you have more time in general, where when you run a department, you just like go from one place.
Oh yeah,
But
you're quite spread out, aren't you?
Spread out, and
you have
your
to
brain
think of many things.
Yeah, and it's not just focusing on one thing. You're thinking about so many different other things at the same time. And you're constantly worried, like, have I forgotten about this? Is this okay? Is this being covered? Where you don't have that worry with one personal. So you can delegate yourself completely to this one character and one person. I say that's the difference, maybe. The con is, I guess, that you sometimes only work when they work. So you have, I mean, it's a pro as well. Then you can explore and do other things, I guess.
You mean like the days that they're
Yeah.
shooting are the only days that you're working, and then when they have a day off, you have a day off too?
Yes.
Which I'm sure is definitely nice when you're on location.
Yeah, when you're on location, it's great. Yes. I mean, it's a balance. It's like, if you can be lucky that you sometimes do head of department, sometimes person, sometimes in team, it's just all about balance, I guess.
So, Letty, with all the locations that you have worked around the globe, what would have to be a favourite?
God, lady, that's such a difficult question because, like, I think every location has its beauty. But I mean, I have to say, going back to your country, I do remember I've never seen something as beautiful as New Zealand. I remember when I would drive to work, I think we were staying in Blenheim, and then we would have to drive to the lighthouse. Sometimes you remember Derek wants to shoot in at sunrise, so you have to leave so early. And I remember driving and, you're the only one on the street, and I'm driving over this hill, and then on top of the hill, the sun just came up a bit, and the scenery was like, I do remember that still profoundly now, that I touched my heart because I was so touched by the beauty of the nature, I was like, wow, this is amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, another time where I thought like, wow, we're so lucky is like when I was with Ridley on The Counselor. We were shooting in Almeria in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a scene where Cameron Diaz has Javier Bardem, they have those two cheetahs, those two cats, right? And he had this cheetah handler, and it was said that whenever the cats would come onto set, we would all have to stop and not move. So the cats could come onto set, and then they can register everyone on set, and then we would have to start moving slowly. So, because they're still wild animals,
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, and I just happened to stand next to Ridley, and one of the cheetah comes by, and it's purring, and it's almost like a machine. It's like, and you're a little bit nervous because like this wild animal is coming onto set. So you're a little bit nervous anyway. And it came right past me and Ridley. In Almeria, they have this incredible desert, which they shot all the spaghetti western. So it's like the scenery is incredible. So I remember standing there, cat walking by me, purring, standing on the set and thinking, Jesus Christ, this is unbelievable. And I said to Ridley, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how lucky we are. And I remember him saying, it's like, yes, if you love what you're doing for work, it's not work. We're so lucky. And I remember that, and standing there, with this wild animal and on this film set. I do remember that very clearly too. That was special too.
Just having that moment. I think it's a nice reminder to every now and again, even just to stop and look at, because you get so busy and so tied up in what's happening.
Yes.
To just stop every now and again and go, look at where we are.
Exactly.
This is amazing.
Exactly. And it's like, usually you're constantly like, where do I have to go? Who do I have to check? So you're so not aware. But I think that moment is like, because we all had to stop. And I looked around, it's like, my, this is amazing. What a beautiful scenery. The weather was perfect. And it's, exactly like you say, you stop and you're like, hang on a minute, we're this crazy circus, all those crazy people, we're all a bit like nuts. And you're like, wait a minute, but we're in this most amazing situation right now. Okay, let's just stop a second and take it in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times I've arrived at work on a location when it's dark and I've gone into the trailer.
Yeah.
We've worked and then opened the door to walk out of the trailer and the sun's come up and I'm like, holy shit. And I'll be like, guys, have you seen where we are? This is amazing.
Exactly. It's so true, Jamie.
It's like the lights are turned on and you're like, whoa.
Whoa, yeah, exactly.
I know. It's just, oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's also the opposite, isn't it? What the heck are we doing here?
Yeah. It's like, uh-oh. Or it starts raining and you're like, it's just mud outside. It's mud up to my knees. Oh, what are we doing here?
Exactly. It's both ways. But I guess that comes with our job, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. What kind of project have you not done that you would like to?
Oh, okay. What I have not done. I think I would love, it's my background, but I would love to do something like, a film with really high fashion, like almost like editorial or something like that, where you can just go nuts with editorial makeup and just push it almost to the, avant-garde way.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Yes. I also like fantasy. Like I always get quite excited by fantasy and stuff because it's like you can come up with something, or you try to come up with something which hasn't been done. I would like to push, like, try to challenge like that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're creating the look for a world that is being created for that film, it's pretty amazing.
Yes, that's the most incredible, luckiest thing, I would say, And period is fun too. Period is always, I mean, I worked most of my time in England, and like period is very, very well respected there. And I think period is also like honoring the time of that time, and there's a lot of like material and research and things like that, and that's beautiful, like especially for hair work, it's quite very nice work to be done there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the period work that comes out of England is amazing.
Oh, here too. I mean, here America too, but
nobody does it like England though.
They're pretty good, yes.
So we were saying earlier that you're constantly learning.
Yes.
So is there something that you've learned recently that you are excited about?
I think I learned something like, for example, I did this film in Japan, in Bangkok. It's called Kate, which is going to come out for Netflix. And the character, I can't talk too much about it, I think. I don't know. But she had to change the look so many times. And so depends on where we were, we were really, really challenged. Yeah, I think there was like a lot of, I had to do a lot of coloring stuff. So I learned quite a lot with coloring, actually, because even though my background is hair and stuff like that, I had to learn a lot about coloring and working with Asian hair, even though I'm Japanese. But like it was like really particularly colors we had to do. So there was some new stuff I had to learn there.
Okay, so like hair, like chemically coloring hair techniques.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's always room to learn with that one.
And especially with the colors now, it's not just your blondes, your browns, they were like kind of specific colors and stuff like that. So, to really get the right tone, that took quite a while.
Yeah, I still remember working in the salon when I finally felt like I'd figured out color correction.
Yes.
Because it takes a minute. Like,
yes.
To have somebody sit in your chair and it's just like, okay, so that needs to be this and this needs to be that. And what do I use to make that happen? Okay. And it's like this little science lab out the back. And yeah, I just still remember because I was working with a lot of blondes and like color correcting it so it looked good instead of the crap that they were walking in with.
It's so nuanced, isn't it? The nuance is so, yes.
Yeah. It's amazing. I find it fascinating.
It's fascinating, and it's also like every hair reacts different, so it's not that predictable. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's not like, I mean, obviously you have a formula, it's a calculation you have to do. And again, also like learning with the skin tones, like in the heat, with different like the texture. It's like you're constantly learning. It's like Thailand was very, very hot and humid, and then we went to Japan, so the hair and the skin, the makeup reacted different to the temperature too. So, but it had to look the same on camera. So we had to figure that out. So that was a big learning curve. Yes. Because then by the time we got to Japan, it was almost winter. So we jumped from the heat to the cold. So everything looked different. Even like the grease, it's the same way you put it into the hair or the same base you put onto the skin. It reacted different to the skin and to the hair. So that was a big learning curve to adjust the colors and the textures then.
That's awesome. So what was that on?
So it's a film called Kate. It's for Netflix.
Okay, cool. We can look forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to ask you, what one tool or product would you never want to be without?
Oh, okay. One tool or product. There's so
Don't
many.
worry. I'm not going to take all your things off you and just leave you with that.
I tell you one, okay. But, it changes, depends on the job, but there's so many. I mean, I'm such a, I like to have so many different things. But one tool, so it's a Japanese geisha comb, which is made from a bamboo. So it's like pointy and it's long and pointy. So it's like a geisha comb, which I use. It's my lucky comb and I can use it for anything. So if I don't know, if you put me somewhere and I can only have one thing for hair, I probably would take that.
Okay.
And makeup-wise is very difficult. There's so many, isn't it? Eyelash curl? No. That's for me.
Oh, no.
I guess my Chanel basis, maybe.
Your what, sorry?
The Chanel basis.
Oh, yeah.
Chanel basis, yeah. I love those, yeah.
That's awesome.
Or maybe, hang on a minute, maybe it'd be like a really good bronzer. Like, I like this, maybe like a bronzer because everyone looks a bit better. I don't know. It's so hard. I can give you a whole list if you want, but it's so hard to say.
I know. And I'm not sure if anybody I've asked has been able to give me one answer.
Oh,
They're always
really?
like, maybe this. And maybe this. It's just like, yeah.
Or the brushes, my makeup. I don't know. I use my hands too. I don't know. It's very hard.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and what one person would you like to hear on the podcast?
Oh, okay. So I think, well, there's a few people who would be great. Can I give you, top of my head, I would say 3 people. I run them by you. So I think Tina Earnshaw, who's given me one of my first breaks, she's a lovely, lovely lady who did makeup for Titanic and stuff, the talented Replin. She's really lovely and she's funny too. She would tell you some fun stories. Nice. Another one who I would recommend is like Paul Gooch, who's an incredible hair and makeup all-rounder too.
Yeah.
And the third person I would say is V. Neal, because I learned a lot from her and she is like a legend in makeup, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So top of my head, those 3.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you for chatting with me today, Nana. I have loved hearing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely, lady.
Yes, thank you.
For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.